Secretary of State Mike Pompeo meets with the three nations that make up the Quad Alliance. The alliance's unifying goal is to achieve a free and open Indo-Pacific region, one that can't be achieved without tackling the threat from China.
The four regional allies in the Indo-Pacific region seeking to boost ties and cooperation against a common threat, China's communist regime.
As partners in this Quad, it is more critical now than ever that we collaborate to protect our people and partners from the CCP's exploitation, corruption, and coercion.
Pompeo said the alliance was even more important since the pandemic exposed the authoritarian nature of the regime by covering up the virus and silencing those who tried to raise the alarm. The meeting in Tokyo is the first stop on Pompeo's East Asia visit. It's his first trip there since July 2019. The subsequent visits to Mongolia and South Korea cut from the schedule after the president's virus diagnosis. Whilst Pompeo called out the threat from China's regime, the other three counterparts avoided naming China directly. Prior to the Quad meeting, Pompeo met with Japanese Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga, who said his country had been pushing hard to realize a free and open Indo-Pacific region. He said he will be sure to continue working on this.
And one area of the economy that's bounced back much faster is the housing market. A new report says now is the toughest time ever to buy a home in Denver, Colorado. Homes are selling fast and there aren't enough to go around. Luxury real estate in nearby resorts and mountains are also booming. NTD's Phil Zhou reports.
A new report from the Denver Metro Association Realtors shows Denver, Colorado is breaking sales record in all categories. In September, the Mile High City broke records for the most homes sold, the highest median sale price as well as the shortest time on the market, and the lowest inventory available year over year. Single-family homes sold for a record median price of $510,000, up 13% from a year ago. Homes spent a median 6 days on the market before getting snatched up, compared to 16 days a year ago. The association says it's the toughest market to buy a home in Metro Denver's history. In the nearby mountains, luxury real estate in Aspen and Snowmass Village is also booming. In a separate report from Miller Samuel, signed contracts doubled in Aspen for the month of September.
Single-family properties essentially doubled in activity year over year in terms of contracts that were signed during the month.
Sales in Snowmass Village went up even more.
Snowmass Village, which has lower pricing than Aspen, saw a 650% increase in new signed contract activity.
Miller says because of the pandemic, people are making the usual vacation and second homes their primary residences. He says easy access to golf, ski resorts, and the mountains make Denver and the surrounding areas popular with home buyers. He expects this trend with vacation destinations to continue. Phil Zhou, NTD News.
The Chinese Communist regime cracking down on a dissident virologist by arresting her mother. She says the virus isn't natural and accuses Beijing of hiding its severity. NTD's Tiffany Meyer brings us more.
Chinese authorities recently arrested the mother of a Chinese virologist. That's after the virologist accused Beijing of covering up the pandemic. Yan Limeng confirmed her mother's arrest to the Epoch Times on Monday, but declined to provide further details. She was a postdoctoral researcher at the University of Hong Kong before coming to the U.S. to seek asylum. Yan had worked at the university's public health lab. The lab conducts virus research for the World Health Organization. On December 31st last year, after Chinese authorities acknowledged dozens of infection cases in Wuhan, her supervisor asked her to conduct a secret investigation via her network in mainland China. The research, she said, led her to conclude that the situation was far more grim than Beijing had admitted. She soon began secretly delivering the information to the Western world. After she fled to the U.S. this April, Chinese authorities threatened her family in mainland China. Hong Kong police pried information about her from her friends by claiming she was involved in a criminal case. She recently released a paper claiming that the virus isn't of natural origin. The study hasn't yet been peer-reviewed. Twitter quickly banned her account after she announced the paper on Twitter.
An electric vertical takeoff aircraft made its debut near Paris. The designers say the driverless flying taxi will revolutionize how we travel.
Could this be how we travel in the future? Presenting the latest German-made electric volocopter, an air taxi prototype, unveiled at an airport near Paris.
We want to use this special occasion today to present to you a world premiere, to allow all of you to see and feel the volocopter air taxi. It is safe, it is all electric, and incredibly quiet. So enjoy our Volo City.
The aircraft will run on 9 electric batteries with a pilot and 1 passenger. It will have a range of 21 miles and a top speed of 68 miles per hour. Velocity will be tested near Paris from June next year. If the tests are conclusive, Paris authorities hope to have a prototype ready for demonstration flights in 2024 during the Paris Olympics. Reuters says the company is also working on a drone delivery version called Volodrone.
We have 2 different types. One is the passenger carrying vehicle that you see here, the air taxi, and we also have a heavy lift cargo drone. With that, we can revolutionize urban logistics. So it's really about bringing this new mode of transportation for both passengers as well as goods. And we think there's specific use cases, specific routes where we can bring tremendous value to existing options.
One day, its designers envision the aircraft taking off and landing from pads set up across global cities.
After President Trump contracted the CCP virus, multiple Chinese state-run media outlets began using the opportunity to attack his reputation. Our sister media, the Epoch Times, talked to an expert about how this kind of psychological manipulation is part of the CCP's efforts to protect its existence and prevent Trump from being re-elected.
President Trump is expected to make a full recovery from the CCP virus. He was discharged from the hospital 4 days after being diagnosed. But Chinese state-run media is attempting to portray Trump's condition and his handling of the virus as terrible. In an interview with the Epoch Times, senior fellow at the Hudson Institute and former Brigadier General Robert Spalding said recent state-run Chinese media reports are the CCP's latest attempt to undermine the U.S. and the upcoming election.
I've seen a number of posts that would indicate that they're trying to create this perception that the president may not make it, or that somehow he may come through it, diminished in some mental way. And so it's part of this disinformation, influence campaign, information operation, call it whatever you will.
Chinese state media outlets like the Global Times and People's Daily have made reports saying Trump's mishandling of the virus is the reason why he contracted it. General Spalding said these outlets are also pushing narratives that keep the blame away from the Chinese Communist Party. In the beginning of the pandemic, Chinese media said Trump was xenophobic for calling the virus the China virus. Spalding said they'll label anything that challenges the CCP as racist or xenophobic to avoid criticism.
And so you have to separate the Chinese Communist Party so that you can, very clearly lay out the fact that, they're a malign actor, they're a totalitarian regime. They don't actually support the Chinese people. And when you criticize them, you are criticizing the regime. You're not criticizing the nation or the people.
Spalding said the CCP is also using American public relations firms to undermine Trump and American values. He said that right up until the November election, the CCP will continue to push or create new narratives to try to make sure President Trump is not re-elected.